Or it could almost be taken as a threat. If you don't engage with this, then we will put you back into an inpatient ward. Some sort of punishment for not engaging with the system. I mean, that's quite threatening, isn't it? But it also raises a question here, and I'll be really interested in what people watching this think, is about this. What do we think about having a family photo in the doctor's office and the therapist's office? You know, let's not forget, a high proportion of the population do experience what are known as in the literature as aggressive intrusive thoughts or aggressive scripting. And we know that over half of people diagnosed with OCD experience these too. And they are not associated with subsequent acts of aggression, meaning that the thoughts don't automatically lead to the behaviour. And he's now saying that the Rogers family are in fact dead. So I'm guessing it was him. I'm guessing he did it. It's too much of a coincidence, right? Hi everyone and welcome back. Stuart here with another reaction from the perspective of a psychotherapist. Please remember, as usual, these are just my initial impressions. They are unique to me and the position I'm in terms of my learning history, my education, my culture, and quite often just the kind of mood I'm in at the time. And today we have a new request. It's a track by sKitz Kraven and it's called Session 9. I haven't heard any sKitz Kraven at all, so this is brand new to me. A very quick initial Google search tells me that sKitz Kraven is an American rapper, a singer and a songwriter from Wisconsin, and he has a horrorcore, I don't know what that is, aesthetic. So let's jump straight in.
This is Dr. Nick Forrest. Today's date is October 22nd, and we are continuing Evan's outpatient treatment following discharge.
Okay, so if you didn't catch that, the voiceover, or the voice on the tape said we are continuing Evan's outpatient treatment following discharge. So an implication there being that Evan has been an inpatient, he's been discharged from that inpatient service and he is now attending as an outpatient and receiving some kind of therapy sessions as part of that, and this appears to be session number 9.
22nd, and we are continuing Evan's outpatient treatment following discharge.
Hey Evan, how are you? How's your week been lately? Tell me what is new.
Fuck you.
Okay, why?
I don't really know, but I don't want to be here.
I get it, but to stay out of the ward, outpatient completion is needed, so let's make some effort.
You really want to talk, Doc? Okay. Education is an inconvenience.
So I'm not going to stop this too often, just where there are things that really kind of jump out on me that I want to pick up on. And the doctor said a really interesting thing there. He said to stay out of the ward, outpatient completion is needed, so let's make some effort. And I think that can be taken in two ways. Either if we work together here, we can work on rebuilding your life, and that might get you to a place where you don't need to be admitted again because you're getting on well with things. Or it could almost be taken as a threat. If you don't engage with this, then we will put you back into an inpatient ward. Some sort of punishment for not engaging with the system. You know, that's an interesting point. Obviously, I want to help people, but I would never want them to feel coerced into working with me because it's just not going to work well. You can't really help someone in that kind of context, I don't think.
Let's make some effort.
You really want to talk, Doc? Okay. Education is an inconvenience, especially when already an evil genius. Yeah, I walk through life holding hands with demons. Everyone I ever see, I want to stop from breathing. My roommate prevented me from ever sleeping. He would snore all night, I would want crack pipe, might as well, right? Cause with all of his snoring and group early morning, I ain't sleeping anyways. Been out of the ward for a month, so I assumed I would start loving my life. I assumed I would stop cutting wrists with the knife. I assumed I would stop having terrors at night, call it wishful thinking. Cause all I want to do is increase the creep.
So he's been out the ward for a month, so he assumed he would start loving his life, assumed he would stop hurting himself, assumed he would stop having terrors at night. And perhaps that was just wishful thinking, he said. So to me, that speaks about the expectations of what happens after an inpatient stay and the importance of putting in a package of care that genuinely supports the person. You know, coming out of an inpatient ward, it can be massively stressful. It can be highly anxiety provoking. It can be a highly fearful experience, especially, you know, if someone is going back to not a lot of support. You know, they might not have family. For instance, they might be going back to living by themselves, and maybe they think that the whole point of the stay of the inpatient was to get them to completely stop doing some of those behaviours. And then it's a surprise when they come out, they're put into a very stressful, fearful situation, and those behaviours that they've always done as a way to cope kind of come back. So it's important to have an understanding about that and put something in place to really support someone through that. You know, it can be incredibly difficult.
I assumed I would stop having terrors at night, call it wishful thinking. Cause all I wanna do is increase the creeping. I black out mixing all these pills with drinking. I overthink, plus my neighbors telling me my basement's stinking.
Evan, I know. I understand life since the ward has been tough, but just think about all of the progress you've made. You used to cut every day, now it's once in a month. I would say that's a little success.
Just see him. Did he roll his eyes there? It's like, oh, this therapist is banging on again.
Evan, I know. I understand life since the ward has been tough, but just think about all of the progress you've made. You used to cut every day, now it's once in a month. I would say that's a little success. But tell me, how are you dealing with stress? Are you taking the meds I prescribed, or just self-medicating instead?
Well, doc, kind of funny you asked. I'm high as fuck right now with a pill in my ass. When I use like that, I get high real fast. So the longer it's in is the longer it lasts. What a blast, right? Forget it. I know they wanna see me committed. Stop acting like I got a fucking best friend, Nick. When I thought I had a friend, I didn't. I just wanna get throat slit. I just wanna carve real nice. I wanna dig all in their organs. Murder for me keeps me focused. Body parts sorted. Organization's important. Limbs in the bins, I keep groping. Rubbing lotion. I gotta throw the extras in the ocean. I'm a straight killer, I admit it. The Roger murders, I did it. I left the word violently. Then I took myself a long drive to commit a crime, you see. A family made up of 3. I found them with ease. Their bodies were mine to be. I started off looking in windows. Stalking excites me. I love invasion of privacy. Yeah, Toya was combing her hair. I just started to stare. I was trying to peek and see the titty she grew in a week. She was heading to college, so I had to teach. Mr. Roger would talk about his family like you're doing with me every couple of meets. You shouldn't though. You know I'm crazy, Nick. Been thinking about your relationship, a loyal wife that raised the kids, their college pay, what a way to live. I know you have a daughter and son. Your daughter's off to college, I bet that's fun. She's
right, so he's talked about this experience of kind of taking out this family, and I'm not sure in the context of this whether he really has, and there's a kind of a bigger story here, or whether this is something that he's come up with in his mind. So he talks through this quite detailed narrative of what he did, or what he's thought about doing to this family, the Rogers family. And then at the end of saying that, he picks up this family photograph, which has got, you can see it here on the screen, it's got the psychiatrist and his family. And he's saying, oh, I see you've got a nice family as well, after just explaining what he's done to a previous family. I mean, that's quite threatening, isn't it? But it also raises a question here, and I'll be really interested in what people watching this think, is about this. What do we think about having a family photo in the doctor's office, in the therapist's office, you know, in the social worker's office? Does it normalize those people as more of a person than perhaps just that profession? So for example, if I had a picture of my family in my therapy office, does that make me seem more of a person, and I have a life outside of therapy, so maybe I'm a little bit more relatable? Or could there be a relational security issue here? You know, perhaps there's a chance that people might identify the family and recognize them outside of the clinical practice, and how will they respond when they see those people? I know from conversations I've had before with previous therapists and doctors and things, where people are split, people are divided about this. So I'd be really interested to know what you think. In this case, it doesn't look like it's working out so well for him.
Way to live. I know you have a daughter and son. Your daughter's off to college, I bet that's fun. She's what, like 22? I bet you're hating how fast she grew. I bet you hate she has big boobs. I bet she's real good with the dudes. I bet she never pays for booze. I bet she's eating dick like food. Aww. Oh no, what's the matter, Nick? You're looking like you just saw a ghost. Don't stress out now, you gotta keep your head afloat. Cause tonight I'll invade your home, you gotta save your own. Yeah, king's gotta keep his throne. You gon' learn there's no killing me, I'm on a killing spree. And Doc, you're the next to see. My right nightstand's where your head will be. You bought a crib in the Hamptons, right? Only 20 minutes from the office? Tight. Man, you're like the shit now. Wouldn't it suck if your spleen got ripped out? Damn, Nick, you're looking like you need a cig. Wow. Take a sip of water and chill out. You still got like 7 more hours to live. You should really be spending this time with your kids. Anyways, Doc, are you happy we talked? Because if not, I can...
That the way he sits down and says, are you happy we talked? It's like, hey, you asked for this. I said at the beginning I didn't really want to talk about anything, but you said I had to. I had to engage in this process. Otherwise, I would be straight back on the ward and admitted again. How do you like it now? Let's see how the doctor responds to this.
Doc, are you happy we talked? Because if not, I can...
that's enough. The statements you've just made to me are very disturbing. I'm not sure if this is a way you express yourself as a release or if these threats are serious. But you know that I have to report any harmful threats, especially ones towards me and my family. If this is the case, then our session today has come to an end.
No, Doc. Of course, these are just empty threats. My old psychiatrist, Dr.
So I'm guessing this is his like killer persona. He says these are just empty threats, but I'm guessing this is suggesting they are not. And what we see here is the real him of how he sees himself in his head and not what is currently coming out of his mouth. So this indicates to us that they aren't, and to him, as in sKitz Kraven, that they aren't just empty threats.
Doc, of course these are just empty threats. My old psychiatrist, Dr. Roger, back in Wisconsin told...
Dr. Roger. So that's got to be the Rogers family, right? That he told that story about. So maybe it was kind of a script in his head that he'd gone through about his previous psychiatrist.
Just empty threats. My old psychiatrist, Dr. Roger, back in Wisconsin, told me that saying my urges out loud was a healthy way to manage them, so I don't have to kill. But with him and his family being murdered just a few weeks ago, I'm feeling overwhelmed.
Right, okay. So Dr. Rogers was his previous psychiatrist who he told that story about. Interestingly, I picked up that he said he's from Wisconsin, which I think is, I said right at the beginning of the intro that sKitz Kraven is from Wisconsin. That's really close to home. And he's now saying that the Rogers family are in fact dead. So I'm guessing it was him. I'm guessing he did it. It's too much of a coincidence, right? And this is horrorcore after all.
But with him and his family being murdered just a few weeks ago, I'm feeling overwhelmed with emotion, which is essentially causing me to lash out verbally. But don't worry, Doc. I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm not gonna hurt your family. And most importantly, I'm not gonna hurt anyone else. I promise.
sKitz Kraven. Well, that was unexpected. Where do we start with this? Right, let's start with the concept. So I'm guessing this is what horrorcore is all about. It's like a horror film condensed into a music video or a series of music videos with the same themes as you would expect as if you were watching a horror film. So I guess given that sKitz Kraven explains his style as horrorcore, then he's doing exactly what he says. And it's interesting though, there were some elements of that I did find quite shocking. Obviously not enough to turn it off or anything. Maybe it's not so much shocking. Maybe it's more of just a surprise because it was unexpected. And it's not even so much about the story overall or kind of the killing. It's more about the inappropriateness of what he was saying about kind of the women in that family. And I guess that just fits with me having a couple of daughters myself and relating the potential that other people might be thinking about them in the same way. You know, that makes me feel really uncomfortable. But just because something makes you feel uncomfortable doesn't mean that it needs to be avoided. But saying that, there's nothing here I haven't seen or heard before, and I'm sure it's the same for everyone else. You know, there's nothing that's different from horror films or from thrillers. I just haven't come across it before in a music video, I don't think. I'm trying to think of anything else, but I can't. Then I think about this with my therapy hat on, and there's some really interesting things to consider here. And the main thing being the therapist-patient or the therapist-client relationship and what is said in sessions. As a therapist, you want to facilitate an environment where the person can speak openly and honestly about what they are experiencing. Now, I work in the justice system, so I often hear about things that people have done or things that people want to do or their mind is telling them to do. And the therapist is right in this case, mostly, that there are times when things have to be reported. And this is all outlined to the person right at the beginning of sessions. But you end up in these situations where people say they are having thoughts about something or doing something, but have no plans to ever actually carry the thought out as a behaviour. So what do you do with that? You know, let's not forget, a high proportion of the population do experience what are known as in the literature as aggressive intrusive thoughts or aggressive scripting. And we know that over half of people diagnosed with OCD experience these too. And they are not associated with subsequent acts of aggression, meaning that the thoughts don't automatically lead to the behaviour. And in fact, the reason that people with OCD get so distressed is that those thoughts are at the complete other end of the spectrum of their values of a person. So the fact that they could have a thought about hurting someone else is so distressing to them that they end up doing kind of compulsions to try to get rid of that thought. So actually it's almost protective for them because they start avoiding places with other people and things. So this could limit what the person might say to the therapist about what they are really experiencing, because they won't want to risk that being reported. You know, and the actual thresholds of what needs to be reported can be quite ambiguous. It can be quite a grey area and open to subjective interpretation of that sole therapist you're working with. So that means that the person, if they can't open up honestly about what they're thinking, they might not get the help that they actually need. So in this instance, sKitz Kraven is saying all of this inappropriate stuff to the doctor. Suggestions of killing. Inappropriate talk about his daughters and his daughter, I think, going to college or university or somewhere and what she's up to. But then he caveats it with, well, I've been told to say my urges out loud as a healthy way to manage them. You know, you lot did this to me. This is what you wanted. You wanted me to say all of these things. And he's kind of right. You know, people are quite often told to write things down or to say their thoughts as a way to get some distance from them, to lessen the power that they have. And obviously this is in a horrorcore context. So maybe there's an assumption that there's kind of a wider story here. And he has in fact done these things he is suggesting. And I'm guessing there's a whole backstory to all of this that fits together. But outside of that, it does highlight putting people in difficult situations with their therapists. I'm not sure what I make of this. It's not something I'd go around singing, and I wouldn't listen to it in the morning when I'm having a shower. But I can appreciate something with a story. The beat is great. The flow is great. He had me engaged throughout the entire video and listening to the story and listening to what he was saying. Let me know what you think of sKitz Kraven. I think what I'd be really interested to know is whether he's going for kind of shock horrorcore kind of as his thing, or whether he has a genuine underlying this is how people are treated in therapy, this is how people are treated on wards, if there's more of a psychiatric mental health underlying theme across the rest of his work. I'll be really interested to hear. Should I check out more sKitz Kraven? Let me know in the comments. What do we think of this? Very different to what I normally have on this channel, I think. But hey, I love checking out new stuff. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care.